Their public schools are straining with hundreds of new migrant students who don't speak a word of English. Their police force is being diverted from traffic stops to migrant crime, our favorite new term, migrant crime. It's a new category of crime. Women are treated horribly. They're being raped at levels that nobody's ever seen before. Nobody wants to talk about it. The fake news will report that, oh, it's so terrible what he said. But it's fact. You know where the crime is? In the bodegas, where they come and rob them every week.
He's a very, very weird individual. But he said there that the media is going to say, oh, it's very terrible. Well, I'm going to report that what you said was terribly wrong because it wasn't a fact, because that's not actually happening. There's plenty of crime in the US, in no small part thanks to the economic subjugation of many Americans as a result of decades and decades of Democratic and Republican laws. And there's millions of guns there, and there's a lot of justification for violence is being given by political actors. That said, while there's still crime, it's not the post-apocalyptic hellscape that Donald Trump wants you to believe. And I've got some inconvenient facts for him. Over the last 3 months, there's been a lot of progress in these categories, even migrant crime, the new term. So new data shows that violent crime in the US dropped by about 15% over the last 3 months. So the first quarter of 2024 saw a 15% drop in violent crime compared to the first quarter of 2023. So a year later, comparing the same period of time after the holidays, the same season, all of that stuff, crime dropped. And the worst crimes dropped even more than that, actually. So from January to March, compared to the same period in 2023, there was a big drop in murders and reported rapes, which both fell by more than a quarter in the first 3 months of 2024. This is great news. We should be very happy about that.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the Damage Report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you.
We should still be incredibly worried about all of the crime that exists, but it's great news to see that. Aggravated assaults fell by 12.5% in that period. Robberies dropped by 17.8%. And by the way, this is data that's been gathered by more than 13,000 law enforcement agencies across the US. And by the way, if they wanted, law enforcement agencies would probably love, for at least two different reasons, to exaggerate the amount of crime. One, for more funding, and two, because it helps Donald Trump's messaging, and we know that a lot of them support Donald Trump, and yet the data still shows this. But more importantly, we should not be surprised by this. Crime went up during the first years of the pandemic for reasons that have been analyzed to death, and it makes a lot of sense. We're not in the pandemic anymore, and many of the conditions that led to the rise in crime have gotten better. In particular, there has been slow but steady economic improvements. And so it is not a surprise that crime is going down. But it's also not a surprise that Donald Trump is going to continue to lie about it, because he wants people to be terrified. He wants them to believe that the end of the world is upon us so that they'll vote him back in. But we have to be fair. When Biden does something that's wrong or bad, we criticize him. We criticize what he did on the border. But he also gets to get credit. If he was supposed to get the discredit for high crime, then he gets the credit for it improving at least a little bit. But Sabrina, what do you make of this? What do you think?
Oh, it's absolutely a fear-mongering tactic, especially in what he just said. He's just trying to get people to be afraid of immigrants, undocumented people. And of course, he's wrong. And of course, it's offensive. I grew up in a mostly immigrant community. And honestly, what I've come to realize is that a lot of immigrant families are more likely to be on their best behavior because they don't want to risk getting involved with the law. So it's just a fear-mongering tactic. And also, can I just say, we have got to give it up for the cops for reducing crime. Some say even about 40% of crime reduction. Just Google cops 40%.
Oh my God, I'm really curious about what this is going to bring up. So, oh geez. Okay, well, everybody Google that. Okay, a little bit of extra research, a little bit of extra homework for you. But anyway, yeah, the interesting thing, of course, and the consequential thing for Joe Biden is the gap between perception of crime and the actual crime. And so, look, there's been a lot of reporting about this. And by the way, there's reporting both about, all of the reporting from these different law enforcement agencies. There's also information about, gun fatalities from the CDC. There's a variety of different metrics that can be used to showcase this. But anyway, there's always been a gap between how much crime there is and what people think of it. And it's very strong recently. If we go down to our final graphic, graphic 5, you can see that starting at about 2005, the two things, the reality of crime and the perception of crime, diverged. And they haven't really come much closer since then. And although right now violent crime is at about the same level it's been over the course of the last 15 or so years, people really think it's going up. They think not just that it's high, that it's rising. And so that's going to be a messaging thing that Joe Biden and the Democrats are going to have to, get around. And obviously, again, there is still crime. If crime has affected you or people you're going to prioritize that. And I would argue that you should. But we should also bear in mind the macro picture of what's happening across America. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.